Hey guys, thanks for joining us on this special episode, and don't forget to support our Patreon. Just $1 or more will get you early access to all of our content as well as other special features. Enjoy the show! The following is a fan-based video review under fair use. Iron Man is owned by Marvel, Disney, Paramount Pictures, Kevin Feige, and Jon Favreau. Please support the official release and streaming services.
The jig is up, kid! You lost!
Your application to join the Avengers didn't pass the board.
Stark, you got me linked!
I got the team assembled.
I ain't one, Stark.
Stark is mine!
According to Stark, Loki has been spotted within multiverses. There's no telling what he's seeking, but I'm sure it's nothing good.
You fucking dumbass! They used you to get to the Infinity Gauntlet, for fuck's sake! Is he dead?
He doesn't die so easily.
I surrender!
When I do the final touches on the next FDT model, things will be a lot easier. I also made sure to backlog a few episodes while I'm gone. The actual King's Gauntlet.
Where are you going now? Back to the future?
Nope! Already been there!
Attention viewers, BigJackFilms is unavailable at the moment due to his quest for the King's Gauntlet. But he has left a recording and substituted host for the show for you to enjoy.
Hey guys, what's up? It's BigJackFilms here, and welcome back to another review in the beginning of Season 8. And today Oh, you might be wondering why I'm here and not searching for the King's Gauntlet with Android 18. Well, that's simple. I'm an AI. It's all the rage right now. Stark Industry approved, and you know what, actually? Given how much he's helped me in the last few years on my show, I think I should talk about him. Created in 1963 by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, much like Spider-Man, Iron Man was a front-cover icon for Marvel Comics in the early days. The adventures of billionaire Tony Stark and his advanced technology became vast and exciting for readers, with Tony even being the first to assemble all of Marvel's established heroes with the Avengers. Which the same can be said for his attempts in the movies as well. His first media appearance was in the short-lived cartoon Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends in 1981, which followed the character to every animated series Marvel has put out.
It's all your fault those freaks got that device stuck. Your security staff is incompetent. And rude, too.
They just have a low tolerance for yellow journalism.
Yellow? How dare you?
But with the success of Batman and Superman in the 70s and 80s, adapted for film, again much like Spider-Man, Iron Man as a movie began in 1990 with the rights being signed off to New Line Cinema along with, oddly enough, Universal Studios. Then in 1996, the rights were traded over to 20th Century Fox. But then in 1999, the rights were sent back to New Line Cinema with Quentin Tarantino interested in directing, which then passed to other directors and writers for almost a decade. Seriously, what the hell was going on with this production? There was even one draft that made a specific reference to the events of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, in which Stark Industries assisted with designs of Doc Ock's mechanical arms, which out of that draft eventually led to Doctor Strange being name-dropped, and eventually bringing the Sam Raimi films into the MCU.
Doctor Strange.
That's pretty good. But it's taken.
Almost 30 writers were offered to finalize the script, but many of them, and even directors, turned out the project. However, in 2006, after Paramount got the rights, it was newcomer director Jon Favreau who was given the director's chair, and a then risky washed-up actor at the time ready to redeem his reputation.
What followed was the very first chapter and the biggest game changer of movies and franchises in the last few years, for which all would copy and paste for better or for worse. And while I'm kind of a casual fan of Marvel, I don't really have the time nor energy to cover all of them. But this is a Patreon-sponsored review by none other than Issac Rocks, who asked me to cover this groundbreaking film.
Hello.
Oh, hey Isaac. I have way too many characters named out on the show already.
Can't wait to see you cover one of my favorite movies.
Well, thanks for keeping the roof over my head.
By the way, I just wanted to reply to a message from Starfleet. They basically saw some anomalies in space near Jupiter after they rounded up the metahuman control fleet fleeing to space.
What a nice chap. This, of course, being 2008's first major summer blockbuster and superhero film of that year with Iron Man.
So the first film in Phase 1 of the MCU stars our lead hero Tony Stark, played by Robert Downey Jr., as a genius billionaire playboy philanthropist. I can't pronounce that. And son of legendary inventor and weapons contractor Howard Stark. When Tony is assigned to give a weapons presentation to an Iraq unit led by Lieutenant Colonel James Rhodes, played by Terrence Howard, he's given a ride on enemy lines. But that ride ends badly when Stark is attacked by enemy combatants. He survived the ordeal, but barely, with his chest filled with shrapnel and a car battery attached to his heart. In order to stay alive, he comes up with a way to miniaturize the battery and figures out that the battery can power something more portable and stronger as a way to escape the terrorist prison. He makes his first set of armor and modded weapons and flies off back to Allied forces. Returning to America, his first task, outside of wanting a cheeseburger,
I want an American cheeseburger. And the other...
That's enough of that.
It's not what you think. I want you to call for a press conference now.
Don't know what fast food chain endorsed that one.
Honey, what are you doing?
I am
Iron Man!
Discover your own power at Burger King with Iron Man toys from the new movie. 6 in all, 1 toy in every kid's meal.
It's hot as an oven in here.
Iron Man toys are now at BK.
Well, if Jurassic Park 3 is any indication, if you can't get the clown, you get the king. Plus your traditional product placement drink. The company gave us a ton of these as a token of appreciation after the Battle of Toronto. Wait, how the hell is a hologram able to eat and drink this shit?
I am inevitable.
And I want an American cheeseburger.
To improve this new technology to fight against evil and tyranny, and thus, Iron Man is born. As he begins work on perfecting his metallic suit, he also disbands his company for making weapons for the military and other black market buyers. But the man who was put in charge of Stark Industries, Obadiah Stane, played by our lovable bearded Prescott, Jeff Bridges, has plans of his own to take over Tony's technology for other matters, including building a war suit of his own. So, looking back on the first film since 2008 and its impact on the Marvel franchise, how does the first chapter stack up in my opinion? Well, to be honest, nothing's changed since I first saw the movie at my local drive-in on a whim, and was very entertained by. I knew nothing about the comics or previous incarnations much, so this was my first introduction to the character, and it made a pretty good impact as a high-class gun-toting action flick full of amazing special effects, fun firefights, and some charming characters. The first being, of course, our title character, whom in Phase 1, while I liked him, wasn't my favorite of the future Avengers. But over time, the character of Iron Man grew on me as sort of a Red Ranger of the series, and Tony Stark had a great personality, a charming wit, and a sense of humor, and a great actor at the helm. Before this movie, Robert Downey Jr. was on a bit of a washed-up area of his career. He hadn't had a hit for a while, and the last movie, as far as I saw, was that piece of shit Shaggy Dog movie with Tim Allen, and on top of that, had a hard time with drugs and other means, which does play somewhat as part of his character in this film and future films with Tony's alcohol problems. But it's pretty clear with this movie, and later that same summer with the comedy Tropic Thunder, that this was Robert's redemption in Hollywood, which paid off big time, leaving an amazing performance as this iconic comic book character, and a new reborn career since this movie. I mean, hell, now he's working for Marvel's rival with Christopher Nolan on Oppenheimer, which to me is a prequel to Godzilla Minus One.
Truman needs to know what's next.
What's next?
1.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
During the early legit stages of pre-production, the role was originally given to Tom Cruise circa 2005, but when that version fell off, Robert was later given the part, and honestly for the better.
Not a great plan.
As much as I would have liked to see Tom Cruise in a Marvel movie, despite him working his ass off being this generation's Evel Knievel, it was cool to see Robert Downey Jr. given the role of Iron Man. And as the title hero, Tony Stark is a pure badass. The suits in this movie are absolutely fantastic, from the original suit as a nod to the first comic appearance, the prototype silver suit, and then finally, the Mark III. Ironic that he names his suits kind of similar to how Speed Racer names the Mark V, which out of all the suits, by the way, is probably still my favorite from the first film, and to this day, all the special effects for it are spectacular. While CGI was used to great use and over time took over the majority of the series' effects, this film still utilized practical elements from both legit suits and animatronics provided by the legendary Stan Winston and his team, being one of the last films the master worked on before he died, along with the following year's Terminator Salvation. And this is probably some of his finest final work, making the story's concept much more believable on screen. But not only was Iron Man a practical piece, the same could be said for his first on-screen rival with the Ironmonger, a much more hulked-up version of the Mark I suit.
You've upgraded your armor! I've made some upgrades of my own!
And with it, an actor who can carry a big load basket on his shoulders. Eh? Eh?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Jeff Bridges, as a kid, actually read the original comics and was a fan of the Marvel Adventures. He liked Jon Favreau's modern, realistic approach and was dedicated to shave his head for the part, something he had wanted to do for some time. I mean, thankfully, nothing else was trimmed in the process.
And tomorrow, we come back and we cut off your Johnson.
Excuse me?
I said we cut off your Johnson!
Bridges actually researched the Book of Obadiah and was surprised to learn retribution is a major theme in that book of the Bible, something that Stain actually represents, though many of Stain's scenes were cut from the film to focus more on Stark.
I guess this is a draw. The genie's out of the bottle. I'm stuck. We've done our part. Now it's time for both of us to go. No.
But the writers felt Bridges' performance allowed the application of less is more when editing the film. While I liked Bridges more as a hero from Jack Prescott to Prince Lear, it's also cool to see him play a bad guy every now and then, and here it looked like he had a damn good time. Less could be said about the outdated deepfake technology used in Tron Legacy.
Honestly, it's impossible.
Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave! With a box of scraps!
Gwyneth Paltrow plays Virginia Pepper Potts, Stark's personal assistant and budding love interest. Paltrow asked Marvel to send her any comics that would consider relevant to her understanding of the character, whom she considered to be very smart, level-headed, and grounded. She said she liked, and I quote, the fact that there's a sexuality that's not lenient.
Let's face it, this is not the worst thing you've caught me doing.
Favreau wanted Potts and Stark's relationship to be reminiscent of 1940s comedies, something which Paltrow considered to be fun and in an innocent yet sexy way. I will admit though, given her performance and, unfortunately, later career path, she is kind of the weakest link in the story, acting like a generic Mary Jane or Gwen Stacy for Spider-Man. And that's a shame, because there was a time I used to really like her as an actress in her breakthrough films like Shakespeare in Love. But here, she doesn't deliver as well as I used to think.
That was totally weird.
Totally harmless.
It was totally not harmless, by the way.
I'm sure a lot of people like her character, but it's probably a minority opinion on my part that I don't personally.
Is that so? Well, then I quit.
The rest of the cast is small, but okay at most. Because the film is a small focused cast, the rest are mostly filler characters and/or cameos, including Marvel creator himself, Stan Lee, who has made traditional cameo appearances in other Marvel movies and shows prior. Terrence Howard is okay for the most part as James Rhodes, but unfortunately, much like Edward Norton in the follow-up film The Incredible Hulk, would be recast for the character's next appearance with Don Cheadle. While Terrence is a great actor, he's unfortunately underused and not given too much to do. It's obviously clear later on he would don the suit of War Machine. It sucks to see the actor having to take off from the role due to pay cuts for the sequel.
Next time, baby.
I mean, it's the equivalent of doing Batman Forever, having Chris O'Donnell as Dick Grayson, and not including him as Robin. It feels kind of off.
How about Dick Grayson, college student?
Screw you. The action scenes are honestly really fun and flashy. In fact, since the last time I saw it, I've forgotten how exciting they were. From the practical effects elements to the fiery explosions and gunfire, these segments make the movie a great summer ride. From the Mark I escape, the final battle with Ironmonger, and my personal favorite action set piece with Iron Man making his first major heroic appearance to the world, fighting off hostile terrorists. Despite the US Army attempting to stop this unidentified object, Iron Man shows no mercy, having enough of the world's politics and America's might trying to counter the world's problems, and failing miserably, kicking ass, protecting civilians, and launching missiles on every force. It's a great scene with amazing effects, and made the trailer for the film sell me on seeing it with the iconic theme song by Black Sabbath. The song made the movie for a lot of people, along with tracks from AC/DC among others, included with the kick-ass soundtrack by Ramin Djawadi. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. A composer I've never talked about yet, but I am a fan of. An apprentice to Hans Zimmer, he got his first big break with 2003's Beat the Drum, but actually had his first big Marvel break before Iron Man with 2004's Blade Trinity. While working with Marvel, he also made his best work to date with the HBO series Game of Thrones. But with Iron Man, his score is honestly pretty kick-ass. It sets the mood perfectly, and while seemed to being a copy of Hans Zimmer's tone, does well with the tone of the film. Not much to say, but it's an okay score, and you can find it for practically pennies on the market or on downloadable sources online.
So for the first MCU movie, it appears to have everything in order. But, to be honest, it's not perfect.
I do think for the first chapter, it does set up some things well for the universe, but it can be a pretty generic film to a degree and just sticks out like a typical action flick for boys. I don't think many saw how massive the film would be given the critical failure of Spider-Man 3 the summer prior, so it didn't try too hard to be anything too big, and major credit has to go to director Jon Favreau, who did a great job adapting the comics to film. While this and The Incredible Hulk did start the MCU, it was a decent success for Marvel and the studios involved, being able to match eventually with the big superhero film of that year by DC Comics with The Dark Knight. While the film was a decent hit and people seemed to enjoy it, I think what surprised most and had people hyped for the next Marvel project was the infamous post-credit scene.
Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative.
This scene created a tradition for Marvel movies and later on other big franchise films to this day. Hell, even I do that. And it was a shock and really cool to see the comic book character Nick Fury, for the fans, being played by the legendary badass motherfucker Samuel L. Jackson, and setting up what many people thought was a foolish errand with the Avengers Initiative. At the time, I didn't understand the hype because, like I said, I didn't read many, if at all, Marvel comics, but over time, I started to see what Marvel was trying to do, and even I got excited. And all of that has to go to the first post-credit scene and the film that started a worldwide phenomenon. Overall, the first Iron Man is a fun summer spectacular, and a kick-ass movie through and through. While generic and cliche in some areas, it does its job well thanks to its director, its redeeming star, an awesome cast, great special effects of the old and new, and some awesome action set pieces. It was cool to revisit again, and maybe someday I'll talk about the sequels, no promises, but I did have an overall good time looking back on this movie, coming in at a decent 8.5 out of 10. It's a great first chapter in what would be a game changer for the comic book genre and film history in general. So, check it out and see where the Marvel Cinematic Universe began with the first steps into a larger world.
Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and once again, a major thank you to our Patreon sponsor, Issac Rooks. We'd highly recommend checking out his YouTube channel and his review of our 10th anniversary special. He's an upcoming reviewer, and we wish him the best of luck. Also, be sure to let us know your thoughts on the first Iron Man in the comments below. So until the next video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. This is BigJackFilms, signing off for now.
For bringing the Avengers to us, Stark. You guys put up a good fight for us.
Well, if the kid didn't reach out to us, we'd be pretty outnumbered up on our own. Norman's been rounded up, but there's no sign of Loki anywhere.
Yeah, well, according to Thor, Loki fled from the battle during the enemy retreat. With the destruction of the Infinity Gauntlet, our enemies are pretty much outnumbered at this point.
I wouldn't be so sure of that. You looked into Norman's files with his affiliates. He was selling this and stolen Stark tech to an unknown affiliate connected to Gablor. It's not the meta-human control, that's for sure, but it's not here in the real world either.
It's clear Gablor has friends in other universes. I'll keep an eye on that. With all the pockets of portals opening up, no doubt thanks to Nathan Drake, we're gonna have to deal with a couple of leaks. But don't worry, I'll manage that. In the meantime, I'll leave you on your way.
It will take time for your new model to be finalized and built while you're gone. I'll be in contact around the clock with Wayne Enterprises to work on the model.
I'll keep you posted when I can. Oh, there's your ride.
Alright, come on, kid. We're going home.
Hey, Peter. Keep an eye on him.
For sure, I'll keep him in my web.
Attention all hands, we are closing down investigations for the night. Please ensure all evidence